Hello everyone and welcome back to the Vancouver Regional Championships. One more top 8 as we're getting on through our competition. Really exciting day for any Pokemon fans out there, which I'm sure everyone here is. Sierra Donna, Adam, Doracott. How are you feeling about how things are stacking up?
I'm excited. I think every game we've seen so far has been great. I think we've got some good stories coming together as well. We've got some very interesting matchups to try and look at, but we've got a little bit more top 8 before we can even start thinking about the top 4. So a little bit more action. We're dragging it out a little bit to make sure every player gets a chance to show their skills here on our main stage.
Yeah, and up next, Zackary Thornberg going up against Ryan Loseto. Ryan being Canadian as well, so that'll be fun to see if that could be another Canadian stamping their way into top 4 at this point. But we've gotten to see Zach through a couple of events leveling up more and more as time goes on. But talking a little bit more about Ryan, definitely not a stranger to the scene either. Still looking for that big accomplishment, though. You could count top 8 Vancouver Regionals as a big accomplishment here in 2023, having played back in 2019. But why just settle for top 8 when you could go for a top 4, you know, winner?
Yep, this is one of those events where trainers definitely want to, you know, step up and push further. Making top 8 in the past means you want to go for top 4 and beyond. Taking a look at the team, it's going to be a team we haven't seen on stream before from Ryan, like we haven't seen Ryan play, but it is going to be the Great Tusk, the King Gambit, the Fluttermane, the Corviknight, which I'm still waiting to be impressed by in the same way as some of the others, with Iron Bundle and Arcanine wrapped up as well. So we're curious to see if this Corviknight can put in work. That is something I'll definitely be tracking over the course of this game. Especially
too, we got to talk to Len yesterday after seeing the Corviknight not do much. And Len's like, well, no, because they have to respect it or it can do something, but I'm still, I need to see it for myself. I need to see this Corviknight do something and see if it has a chance here going up against Zackary Thornberg. As we talked about, leveling up, has it way back 2013-14, getting accomplishments as a senior and then still making those results here in the modern era. Has the top 16 at OCIC, top 8 at Knoxville. So as you said, the maths kind of add up that if you're going forward, that it would be the top 4 next.
Yep, top 4 is the next step. You got to push it a little bit further, and this could be the event for Zackary to do it. But I imagine once he gets to the point of taking top 4, the sights are going to be on the end of the tournament. And his team, we did take a look at it yesterday. It is, of course, going to be the Ceruledge Sylveon, which is definitely some more unique choices, along with that Tatsugiri Dondozo, the Glamora, which I've been consistently impressed with over the course of the weekend, and rounded out with the Fluttermane of his own.
Yeah, and it was Zackary yesterday. It's not a newer unknown strat to be started targeting your own Glamora to be setting that toxic debris, but we did get to see Zach do that on stream yesterday, so obviously very comfortable using this Glamora to its full effect, and it was so nicely paired with the Dondozo, just in the fact that you could be poisoning your opponent's Pokemon and then have this Dondozo in the back that is a little bulkier, even if it's not, you know, it's all set. It could still kind of out-survive things as they're getting consistently chipped down with the poison.
Yeah, I mean, if Dondozo's sitting there with all of its boosts, you're not able to break through those boosts, it's going to be able to buy a lot of time. It can obviously play kind of defensively as well, especially this Dondozo on the side of Zackary. It does have access to the substitute, obviously got the leftovers as well, so it can really let that toxic debris and the toxic spikes that it sets cause those problems. I think Ryan is going to have to be kind of mindful of that. Does, of course, have some Pokemon that can switch in and not be super affected by the use of the toxic spikes, so definitely options to try and get through this one. But this one, you know, could be a little bit slower compared to some of the other games we've seen here on stream. You know, we've seen some very explosive games where it's like turn 1, it's like the game is pretty much over at that point. I don't know if that's something we're going to see in every set here, particularly, you know, we've already got the Tatsugiri. You have to imagine Dondozo is going to turn up at some point.
The other, though, Pokemon available have been Pokemon that have been attributing to that really fast, explosive start that people see, though, because Iron Bundle and this Fluttermane, both players with this Fluttermane, those are Pokemon that definitely go for a lot of damage and don't stick around for long, typically. So if you want to talk about explosive starts, there's definitely that potential here.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane, the Paradox Pokemon that have probably been getting the most consistent attention, right? Like, obviously, there's a few others up there, but they do just kind of throw out big damage. They don't take hits very well, but if you get knockouts, you can carve out a huge advantage.
Well, Zackary not wanting that Flutter Mane to take a hit whatsoever, so it's not going to be getting hit with this Icy Wind, only hitting into the Tatsugiri and going ahead and dropping that speed. And the Energy Ball from Ryan is targeting into the Flutter Mane. So now the Tatsugiri with a chance to respawn. Draco Meteor, not known for being the most accurate, but is going to be getting that one-hit KO with that critical hit into this Iron Bundle.
Yeah, getting a little bit of extra value out of the Tatsugiri, not just being used to activate the Commander ability, just being able to get an easy knockout there on the Iron Bundle. And I think everything was committed there to really try and go after that slot that the Flutter Mane's in. Zackary switches it up, right? You show the Tatsugiri, you're expecting to see Dondozo come in that slot. You then get the lock-in to the Energy Ball from the Flutter Mane. This is going to be a Flutter Mane that is locked in with one of those choice items. And then you say, you know what? I'm just going to catch your Dondozo on the way in for big damage, and I'll be able to follow up on it the next turn. Wasn't the case. So Zack just holding the line and saying, you know what? Tatsugiri can actually get the knockout here with, landing a Draco Meteor either, it has to be, of course, into the Iron Bundle, but just landing a big attack into either of these Pokemon would have been really big. And now, you've got the Pokemon advantage set up already. So Tatsugiri's putting in a lot of work on its own.
Hey, it's got to, and we got to see Zackary yesterday only be bringing the Tatsugiri in the game as well. So definitely a very viable game plan. Another viable game plan, though, that players like to be defaulting to in these situations can be the Perish Song. It does force pivots out of the other end of the field, but what's also noticeable is that Tatsugiri is going to be hit by it as well. So keep an eye on that for later. Flutter Mane will be fainting just at the end of this turn, though, being double targeted.
This is a very interesting time to Perish Song. Doesn't have a way to lock things down, but it is going to be forcing switches, so we're going to have to keep a track of those Perish counts. That is certainly going to start causing problems. But the Flutter Mane is felled, and this is really, once again, the same kind of game plan from turn number 1 from Ryan. Target down that slot and start causing problems.
Well, the thing is, with the Dondozo in the back, this is where that Perish Song that the Flutter Mane was able to set before leaving is going to be so interesting. So the thing with Dondozo and Tatsugiri, the Tatsugiri will be able to go ahead and get that Commander activated, but it is now going to be on that 3-turn timer. Normally, you could only have one Pokemon out on the field, but once that Tatsugiri goes down, the Dondozo will be able to keep the boost, and you can get a second Pokemon out on the field with it.
Yeah, I really love that strategy. It's like you finally get to play Dondozo with the boost, with a partner. Like, what is this? It's such a treat for the players, but Arcanine is going to try and help out a little bit here. Of course, there is going to need to be some serious switching done on the side of Ryan to get rid of those Perish Song counts. The Flutter Mane still has to leave at some point, but it's not going to be this turn. It's just going to keep on trying with this Energy Ball. It is really adamant that this is the way to get rid of the Dondozo.
You have to try something at this point, whereas a very smart Protect is just going to be another turn of the Perish counter going down. So the Flutter Mane and the Tatsugiri now 2 turns left. So you have to then imagine then for Zackary what is going to then be in the back to then be paired up with this Dondozo in 2 more turns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not used to seeing Dondozo with a partner, right? Like, so I'm now very excited to see what the field looks like with Dondozo plus a pal and see how that one goes. But the switch is finally forced. I think making sure you're aware of the Perish count makes a lot of sense, but it's really up to Zackary here to, I think, try and punish in these turns. It's like, there's going to be switches. You're not going to be attacking into Protects or anything. So just, try and get that damage down.
Well, that was the littlest amount of damage that I've gotten to see from an Arcanine in a hot second, whereas the Dondozo will be able to retaliate with a lot more. Big Earthquake into the Arcanine to bring it down decently low, but still sticking around comfortably in the yellow. Will be able to make use of that Citrus Berry, but it won't be so fortunate next turn around if the Dondozo wants to go ahead and go for attack.
Yeah, I mean, the Dondozo here could definitely start causing problems for the Arcanine. I think this is where, I wanted to see as much out of the Dondozo as possible, right? Like, call those switches, land that damage. The Corviknight switch is really nice there for the side of Ryan, getting that in kind of free of charge, right? Like, being able to just bring that in and say, you know what, you're not going to catch me with any damage, so I'm going to be able to get that Corviknight in. And it goes back to that point we were talking about yesterday, where it's like, how much time do you really want to spend on dealing with this Corviknight? It's certainly not the easiest to try and navigate around, but another switch from Ryan's side. He's been, switching around, getting rid of those Perish counts, which are gone on his side of the field as Dondozo keeps it safe. And yeah, if you're not dealing with the Corviknight, this is a build of Corviknight I really like. Being able to bulk up, and increase your damage output from kind of disappointing to pretty perilous at times, does feel really, really good. So that is the Tatsugiri finally done.
Yeah, and this is where things can get precarious, that's a tough word, in return, as the Tatsugiri going down is going to make way for the Sylveon to come out. Now, this is something that we've seen, but not really too much in action with the Sylveon, because having something like the Psych Up, this is where those boosts on the Dondozo can really come in handy, because the Sylveon can go ahead and copy those with Psych Up, so you can have 2 boosted up Pokemon out on the field.
Yep, that's going to be absolutely huge as well, because you'll be fast, you'll be bulky, and you'll be able to cause a bunch of problems that way. So I really like this adaptation and this kind of strategy. Zackary hasn't revealed on stream for us yet. I'm sure it's something he's been doing out in the field, but hasn't been able to show it off, and this is the time to do it. Dondozo will at least be getting some damage down here with the order up and keeping another stat boost. Not one Sylveon's going to be caring about too much, but you know, it's something for later.
I mean, for later, the double target into the Sylveon as well. So at this point, you can see on Ryan's end, like, no, I do not want a second boosted up thing out on the field. So you really then tricky going on forward, because you kind of have to respect the Dondozo, but you kind of have to also respect the Sylveon, and that is where things become dangerous. Late terrestrialization coming out, though. We haven't seen it quite yet, and it is going to go ahead and be that Dondozo into this Steel type.
Yeah, the Steel type's going to be kind of an interesting one, right? Because it's like the Arcanine is going to really appreciate that when it comes back in later, but it is going to mean that it's going to be a little bit harder to knock out immediately, I would say, particularly for the Flutter Mane. But Sylveon getting caught with a big Moonblast is going to be getting time to eat its berry, and that could keep it around for just a little bit longer, as Dondozo is going for this safe and slow option.
Yeah, you want to talk about Pokemon that are going to be sticking around for longer. Well, that Dondozo is definitely one of them. Brave Bird into the Sylveon. That is going to be enough for the KO, the critical hit. And it's going to be this Dondozo against the world now at this point, but set up in a nice spot to be able to do so. It has the boost, it has the substitute, it has the leftovers.
Yeah, it's got a lot of work to do, though. I mean, it's got to take out 3 Pokemon and go for it that way. I think that Sylveon, you know, there was obviously the bulk up as well on the Corviknight, so it does mean that that Brave Bird is a lot more threatening, but you could see that whole term was about getting both of your Pokemon set up to sweep with this back duo of Dondozo and Sylveon. So he wasn't able to execute that strategy, still not able to show it off on the stream here today, but Dondozo is going to be playing what we like to call the long game here.
We were talking about, you know, if we don't have a Dondozo mirror, well, then maybe our games don't go on forever. But this is why Dondozo matches can definitely go the distance, even when it's not a mirror. The substitute, the leftovers, at least it is going to be able to do big damage with that Earthquake into the Flutter Mane. And now Brave Bird hitting into it, not very effective hit, because it is that Steel type now, and it's not going to be enough to break the substitute.
No, he's not going to be able to get there. And something interesting about this set is there's no body press on the side of this Corviknight. So without the body press, this Steel typing just looks a whole lot better, right? Like you're waiting for Arcanine to be able to come in, but Brave Bird is your only attacking option on the side of the Corviknight. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of work to try and get rid of this substitute.
There is a Pokemon over on Ryan's end, though, that can be hitting into this Dondozo for super effective damage, and that will be this Arcanine. As Flutter Mane is going to take the leave from the field and come on in. Dondozo, though, just going for a Protect. You weave these in when you have the leftovers, and you can start gaining health back at a quite rapid pace, and that's definitely not something that's fun to be facing down against.
It adds up, and at some point he's going to, be out from behind the substitute, so needs as much health available to him at that point. The Arcanine, though, will appreciate that Steel typing. Will be able to attack into it super effectively, and be able to try and cause problems out of it. I had to just double check there was a Flare Blitz available, because you never know with some of these. So just making sure that you can deal with that sub and then allow some extra damage to go down. That said, though, I mean, at some point the Arcanine's going to get hit if it, doesn't get to attack it really quickly, and we know that the Dondozo has access to the Earthquake, and the Dondozo is keeping on going with those order ups.
Targeted into the Corviknight instead of going into the Arcanine slot. That could be threatening it. Good call, as it did go ahead and go for that Protect, and the Corviknight is one of those Pokemon you do not want to leave around, because it does have the ability to be able to heal up with that Roost. So we're talking about Pokemon that have the capability of staying on this field for a while. Well, these are it, the Corviknight, the Dondozo.
Yeah, this could be a real long game between the two of them, but we're finally going to see Arcanine try and break this substitute with the Flare Blitz. So it is going to be time for the Dondozo to come out and see if it can play the game kind of properly. But what it does in retaliation is going to be absolutely huge.
Yeah, as it will be that Earthquake, of course, and nothing for the Corviknight. So this was completely designated as the I need to take care of this Arcanine. We already saw how much damage it did last time around, so no surprise that the Earthquake is going to be more than capable of dealing with it this time. As a Brave Bird into the Dondozo, that is a that is a +1 attack Corviknight, and that is doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not going to be able to help out, right? It's like, you know, there's no need to boost up the Corviknight, right, on this one. It just doesn't really matter. So Fluttermane does come in. The big thing here is that Fluttermane is able to, of course, choose a new move. Was locked in a little bit earlier with the choice specs in this case. But, you know, it's like, okay, you didn't want to Moonblast because it's now Steel. That takes away Dazzling Gleam and Energy Ball as well. So you did need that pivot to be able to Shadow Ball. It's the, you know, going to help out a little bit here. But, you know, what can Dondozo do? Because Fluttermane right now is, of course, in a position where it's like, okay, I might get one attack off, but whatever hits me in response for the Dondozo is going to be able to try and take that knockout. And then we're just in this long game of Corviknight versus Dondozo, which is pretty uninspiring, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it definitely is. A Shadow Ball from the Fluttermane, as it did go ahead and Terastallize this time around. Decent little chunk of damage, all things considered, but it will be another round of Earthquake to just take care of the Fluttermane. Leave this now into a 1v1 situation with a Corviknight that's not really doing much into this Dondozo whatsoever.
Yeah, this Corviknight isn't going to be able to touch this Dondozo. Look at this. This is just not the way to go, and I just do not see a way out. So I think Ryan has to go back to the drawing board because at the end of the day, this Dondozo is just going to heal up. It's going to substitute. It's going to be able to just grind you down. So if I was Ryan, I'd use this time. I mean, yes, there is the world where he like fishes for the critical hit, right? It's either he can you know, throw the numbers off that way, but that is definitely a low win percentage that he's looking at here. So does take the time to mull this one over. He's kind of sat in that menu, you know, just trying to figure out what he can do for the rest of this game and see, is there any way apart from the critical hit? I just don't see it on the board.
That's the tough thing, too, with this Dondozo with Unaware, the fact that the Corviknight, you can't just sit there and be like, well, he can't really hit me, so I'm just going to be boosting up. So you're kind of locked into just targeting and hoping at this point, as the Dondozo is going to go for another order up. Even with it not being a very effective hit, the consistent attack boost on the Dondozo side will be able to put a timer on the game that the Corviknight just unfortunately can't.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you can boost up all you want with the Corviknight, but you're still not going to be able to hit it. So this defensive Terastallization with the Steel typing has been absolutely huge for the Dondozo in this one. Corviknight can grind the game down, right? Corviknight can, of course, sit there and be like, you know what, like, I'll just roost while you get leftover recovery. But at the end of the day, at some point, Dondozo is going to hit you, and it's going to do, you know, a bit more damage. The one thing I will say is this is a really unique, not unique, but a Dondozo set without Wave Crash. So the big damage option is gone. I hate to say it, but we could be looking at a very seriously slow game here. There's the order up, though. It is going to start getting that damage down.
Yeah, if this was an order up that was one of the forms that doesn't raise the attack, then this would be probably a little painful at this point for everybody involved, but at this point with the order up consistently getting these attack boosts, it looks like it could just be only a painful situation for Ryan at this point. Can go ahead and roost, bring the Corviknight up to about half, but as long as this Dondozo can keep boosting up, keep applying this pressure, eventually something's got to give.
Yeah, I mean, the Corviknight gets a little more time, right? Without something like the Wave Crash, it's not going to be taking huge amounts of damage, but the order up, you know, even though it's not very effective, is still going to be able to get there. It's so, you know, so slow and steady, but Dondozo's attack just keeps on rising. You know, it did, of course, get slowed down, I guess, a fraction by the Intimidate earlier, but yeah, Corviknight's just healing up, and at some point, you know, Dondozo is just going to be able to either run you out of Roost turns. You know, there's only going to be 5 more of those. Nice to see that he did, of course, max that out. But, you know, what does roosting every turn really get you? Well, it doesn't get you any closer to winning this game. I think Bravebird is, like, we've seen it doesn't do any damage. So unless you can fish for, like, back-to-back critical hits, I don't see the way out right now for Ryan. So probably taking this time to mull things over. Zach has gambled everything on this Dondozo, and it's paid off for him.
This point, just doing the things.
Yep, we're just roosting. We're just going for the Earthquake as well, so trying to figure this one out. We'll see if the Dondozo is kind of running out of turns and options. I think that's going to be a really big one, because it's at this point, it's like, you know, can either player actually get the knockout to wrap up this game? At this point, I'm starting to doubt that a little bit. I will say that, you know, Order Up does have limited power points as well, so, you know, could be starting to look a little lower on those regards. So it is going to come down, I guess, to how we control our healing here. You know, we could be looking at the timer as well. That's something to get involved with. It's like, right, if the Corviknight can hold on through all of the order ups, then it's going to be in a much better position. Like, but here it's like, okay, if you order up, you can take a little recall from your Brave Bird, but you get a better value roost to the next turn, I guess, because you actually get like the full 50. But yeah, we're definitely in a sticky situation right now. You can see that the decision making has been really going to time as we're just, you know, watching the move time. You know, you got a full minute, but it's a tough one.
What an interesting end game to be going into one of these players in game 1 to try and make their way into top 4 here at this point. I think it's interesting. A lot of Dondozos that we've gotten to see during the tournament so far have been the grass terrestrialization type. Really helps with up against some Moongits, just making sure you're not getting hit for super effective damage. Don't get hit by something like a Spore. And not having the grass Dondozo in this case is definitely nice then for Zackary, because the Corviknight would be able to hit into it, as opposed to what is happening right now is it will be another round of order up, and in return, another roost.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of plays into the Corviknight theory of, like, you have to spend a lot of time knocking it out. And it has, of course, been able to buy a bunch of time, but now we're looking at the timers in this game. They're ticking dangerously low. I mean, it's been a lot of decision-making from Ryan, and he is running out of your time. That is the number at the top. You can see it in yellow. It's been highlighted because he's running low on it. If you run out of your time, you are going to be the loser of this game. It's going to be another order up, but still no knockout.
And an order up means another round of the roost, as there it is, 3 minutes left in this battle between these two Pokemon that are looking to go that distance.
Yep, they're definitely taking it all the way down to the wire. We're sub a minute on the side of Ryan Loseto, so needs to start clicking these buttons a little bit quicker, but right now he is starting to run out of roosts, and it's like, you know, at some point you're not going to be able to keep using that move. So another order up, not very effective on the Corviknight, but guess what it's doing at the end of the turn?
Yeah, you take some damage and you're going to be healing just that little bit more, as the Dondozo has the more passive healing option in just the fact that the leftovers will be able to turn after turn after turn. So there it is, the 1 point left in Roost, and this decision now is the order up rings into the Corviknight to go for the Brave Bird, go for that little bit of chip, and taking that recoil damage in retaliation. You only have the 1 Roost left, so you want to make the best use of it.
It's got to be a max value Roost, but I really don't think it matters at this juncture. You know, just looking at the timers here, you know, there's not enough your time on the clock for Corviknight to figure this one out. Even if you input your moves and landed all the critical hits, I just don't see a world where he's able to navigate out of this situation. So we are, you know, going to end it in a very strange fashion, but I'm pretty sure Zackary won't mind, right? I mean, any win that gets you a step closer to that top 4 is, of course, a win. So that's the only stat that is going to matter. He's going to fire off another order up. It's not getting the knockout, but of course, it's Corviknight. That's its last Roost. So at some point, these damage are going to stick. This is going to obviously add up over time, but I don't think we're even going to worry about that. I'm pretty sure the timer is going to be a issue for Ryan here, as he's down to a crisp 3 seconds left on your time.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let it run out at this point. I mean, there is nothing that can be done in this situation. You're sure to, over on Zackary's end, as he cleans up this game 1. You said it's a situation he doesn't necessarily mind. Considering the set on this Dondozo, I don't think it's a situation he's not unused to whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, he knew his win con there, right? Which was just get the Dondozo in, deal with the Arcanine, and you know, at some point you'll just heal up everything, and you take as long as you want, really, against the side of the Corviknight, right? And you know as well, I mean, experienced players know that Corviknight does have limited power points when it comes to the Roost. So, you know, you maximum 8 turns that it can Roost for. So at some point, it's like Order Up has more. Order Up has more power points and is able to cause that problem. So at the end of the day, like, as long as you keep Order Upping, and particularly when Ryan doesn't get like a full value Roost there, you are just going to be able to win the game slowly. So was a definite, interestingly adapted strategy. I think there's been a lot of really good gameplay going on from the side of Zackary there. I mean, we kind of got stuck at the end there on the Dondozo versus Corviknight, but you know, when we think about it, it's like, okay, well, actually, I mean, there's so much more that went on in that game. It's like the Sylveon drew a bunch of attention before it got the Psych Up going. That little bit of time allowed Dondozo to set up the substitute as well, which I think was pretty big when it came to dealing with something like the Arcanine. So, yeah, definitely a unique strategy from Zackary, but feels like he knows this team's sort of problems like in and out. And can navigate around potential threats and counters to his team.
Well, this is the strategy that he's been working on through events to see transpired. I mentioned that coming back from Oceania that there's VGC players playing on the flight. This was a solitaire that I saw go down and see that Psych Up and everything happen with this Tatsugiri and this Perish song. So it's one of those things that you can play a pretty linear path in getting that set up, or you can have the different options as we did get to see broadcasted yesterday. So definitely tested and true, and we'll have to see if it's gonna be enough. This is the lead that suggests that we might see that run back of game one with the Fluttermane and the Tatsugiri, and it'll be facing off against the double paradox start of the Iron Bundle and the Fluttermane.
Yeah, it's going to be the same leads for both of these trainers, but I think if you're on the side of Ryan, you are going to have to make some adaptations on how you play this matchup, right? Like, I think kind of slowed himself down a little bit turn one by leading with that energy ball, desperately hoping to hit the Dondozo. I think if he goes for that again, he could put himself a little bit behind because, you know, you saw the strategy in game number one. He doesn't always just switch the Dondozo in. Maybe he's making the call that Zach is going to turn around this game and go, yeah, actually, Dondozo won me the game. Let's just get it in. Let's get this going nice and early.
Yeah, it's definitely nice when you have that double Pokemon, but when you can see that there is going to be that win-con strategy with just this Dondozo that walls all, well, it could be tempting in a couple of those cases. Terastallization very early to start things off here with that Fluttermane over on Zackary's end. So already a very different game plan. We won't be able to see that coming out from the Dondozo as the Tatsugiri will just stay safe from the icy wind that this Iron Bundle is firing on through. You can imagine though with the Fluttermane over on Zackary's end with something like this Steel, just wanting to stay safe as the Perish song is going to fire off.
Yep, I mean, maybe expecting to see this attack, the Energy Ball once again. And even though it didn't threaten a knockout, it does even less. Now you've gone for the Terra Steel over on this one. So not having that available for the Dondozo could spell a very different endgame for the side of Zach. But once again, he's already committed to this, like, Tatsugiri will get knocked out and I will get a partner for Dondozo in on the field. So certainly something he has to think about. Of course, you've got to be careful. Make sure the Tatsugiri doesn't get knocked out by something like this Iron Bundle and Fluttermane combo, which obviously can put down a lot of damage. So it's really, you know, when do you want to get the Dondozo in? You know, when can you get that in safely and start causing problems that way? Of course, last game, you know, he switched in a little bit later, but I could see him kind of upping the ante a little bit here. And now, with nothing on the field that threatens that Dondozo right now, that, you know, apart from that Energy Ball, which, yeah, it's going to hurt, but as soon as you get the Commander Boost, it just feels like a whole lot better in this time.
Well, it's not going to be the swap, at least not yet. There's another terastallization going off, and this will be the grass terastallization from the Fluttermane. Is already locked into that energy ball, so just looking to up the ante with the damage output that it will be able to do. If it's going into the Fluttermane on the other end, though, it won't be doing anything as it will be the protect that time around. Another round of Icy Wind. It will just be hitting, assumingly, into the Tatsugiri. Get a little bit of chunk of damage as well as that speed drop.
Yeah, Tatsugiri as well on Zach's side does have a Focus Sash, so you need to break that. The Energy Ball is connecting from this Fluttermane. It is going to be double boosted, you know, not just the regular boost. And Tatsugiri's gone, so the Dondozo is not the play here because it's not going to get the Commander Boost with Tatsugiri taken out in turn number 2.
And that's definitely one of the things with this team. When you have this Perish song that it's set up so your Tatsugiri can fall after giving that Commander Boost, well then you've completely eliminated that now. But we've gotten to see that this team can do a couple of other things, and it'll be the Sylveon making its way out onto the field. And notably as well, sure, you don't have the Tatsugiri, but the Pokemon over on Ryan's side are still pressured with this Perish song at this point. So at some point they are going to have to swap, even if it's not this turn with just Iron Bundle, staying safe.
Yep, both of these Pokemon sticking on the field though, as it is going to be a Moonblast into that Iron Bundle. Trying to catch something on the switch would have been absolutely huge there, but now this Energy Ball is going to start adding up. Let's see how much it does to this Sylveon.
Sylveon just taken down under half health, just at that point though too, that it can be getting that Citrus Berry recovery. So That berry is definitely going to be coming in handy as the Hyper Voice will be firing off with the Sylveon. Of course, spread damage will only hit into the Flutter Mane, but with that will just be the perish counts now falling to 1 for 3 out of the 4 Pokemon on the field.
Yep, everything bar the Sylveon has to switch out this turn or it is going to get knocked out. So we do have to take a look at, what is the most important thing for Ryan to save, or does he just go for the double switch? If he goes for the double switch, is he going to get punished by something like the spread attack from the Sylveon with that Hyper Voice? Definitely not going to be punished that easily with Corviknight coming onto the field, a Pokemon that is notoriously hard to take down with Sylveon.
And the Iron Bundle sticking around, that is going to be falling at the end of the turn, as well as the Flutter Mane on the other side. So 2 out of the 3 are on their last legs with this Perish Song, those speed drops on the other end of the field. Moonblast now hitting into the Corviknight. The Corviknight does not seem to mind that whatsoever as another Hyper Voice. Corviknight also going to eat that up well, but now we have a double KO.
Yeah, it's going to be a KO for the Iron Bundle and a KO for the Flutter Mane on Ryan and Zach's side, respectively. So this Flutter Mane, it did take the Terra type, the Steel. Didn't feel like it got that much value out of it. So maybe, something that Zach's kind of experimenting with. Didn't really know where this fit in. And now, the Pokemon count is going to be a 3-2 advantage for Ryan Loseto. So this Arcanine comes in. Let's see what the final choice is on the side of Zackary. It's the Dondozo. It's not getting its boosts that it's used to getting. So this is just a regular Dondozo, I guess is the way to put it. Doesn't have any Tatsugiri in charge, and yeah, just isn't going to be as impactful. Definitely going to be a little bit harder to win and stall the game with it.
Yeah, especially seeing the fact that it wasn't really hitting into the Corviknight. The Sylveon's not really positioned to be hitting anything either. So that is going to be Ryan taking a very strong game 2. Great adaptations with targeting into that Tatsugiri to eliminate Zackary's game plan. And we are now headed to a game 3.
Well, I think what's really cool, and what I got to give Ryan a lot of credit for there, is he actually just stayed in the face of the Perish Song. And a lot of trainers, I think, would see that and be like, oh, I have to switch. But you have time to switch. And he took his time. He said, you know what, I'm just going to go after this Tatsugiri. That's actually a big play, right? Because if you think that he's going to switch in the Dondozo and you double that Tatsugiri slot, you just miss both your attacks. So getting that play made, it's like Zackary was really reluctant. Thinking back to game 1, I believe it was like Zackary waited a little bit longer, didn't bring Dondozo into like turn 3. So it's like, okay, well, turn 2, you're just going to have the Tatsugiri available. Why not, right? Like, why not target it down? Why not try and take it out? So certainly an adaptation and game plan. I think Ryan just kept calm, right? Yeah, both his Pokemon on timers, and he was like, no, I'll get value out of them. He even managed to save one as well by switching that out, but he had so much wiggle room. So yeah, a tough one for Zach. Definitely, if he's going to execute the same strategy, he bought exactly the same 4 Pokemon there. Definitely needs to go back to game 1, not a game 2 angle.
Stay calm, Tatsugiri's gone, but you have to then wonder going into this game 3. Zackary now knows that Ryan's willing to be making these heads-up plays to double target into a slot that could have been completely gone had that Dondozo swapped in. So now you have that really weird mind game, because now if we're faced off with that very similar situation, well, maybe the Dondozo comes in and then you target into nothing. But also Ryan could be then, hey, well, this is how game 2 went. So now I'm just going to hit into the Dondozo slot and catch it in on the swap with a big energy ball. So really weird now, and everything on the line as we head into game 3. The same tried and true lead, the Tatsugiri and Flutter Mane going up against Iron Bundle and Flutter Mane yet again. We got that run back.
Yeah, very agreeable from both trainers, right? Like, they've both won one, lost one with this lead. So it really is all about the execution, and that is going to be the big difference maker. It is, of course, a difference in items in the Flutter Mane, which I do think is interesting. Obviously, the booster energy over on the side of Zach, being able to get that speed boost will win the mirror, essentially, between the Flutter Manes, because it's choice specs over on Ryan's side. But then Ryan's will do more damage. Like, it's a trade that you've got to be willing to make. So certainly some interesting choices here. It looks like Ryan's going to kind of just run back similar strategy. Is very keen on using his Flutter Mane with something like the Energy Ball, getting that boost from the Terra typing, making it very, very prevalent. But once again, it's just going to be trying to get those knockouts nice and early.
Well, if we're running it back, we might as well run it back with the same terrestrialization on to this Flutter Mane to make sure that the Energy Ball can be doing as much as possible. But the Tatsugiri, it has been protected last time around, and it's going to as well, as we see a lot of the same core concepts we've gotten to see before. Yet again, it's going to be this Icy Wind. Now, Flutter Mane on the other side is going to get the speed drop because of that, but it's still going to be going faster. We still see the Perish Song. Like, we've seen this all 3 matches.
Yeah, I mean, this is really big for Ryan here. Like, hitting that energy ball into that protect does mean that, you know, he's kind of back into square one. And it is that coin flip. I hate to say it. It's like you got to call this turn right if you're Ryan.
Yeah.
If you double that Tatsugiri and Zach gives you the Dondozo switch in, oh no. But then if you double the Tatsugiri and he doesn't, and, you know, and you do get the knockouts, you're in just exactly the same position you are in game number 2. And I have to imagine that Zach is thinking, like, what was the problem in game 2? Well, Dondozo didn't get any boosts.
At this point, it could be the entire match won or lost with just this turn for both players. They both know the capability and how things turn out with just this one move being so pivotal in what is going to be set up. The Tatsugiri, though, is going to be the one leaving the field this time around, bringing the Sylveon in place. So not going to be able to see that Perish Song Tatsugiri Donzo combination we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, the Tatsugiri not going to be affected by that. Maybe trying to play an actual just regular Tatsugiri Dondozo matchup, knowing that these 2 Pokemon will fall to the Perish Song. So a lot of options. This is option 3, right? Is bringing the Sylveon and see how much work you can do with that.
And just have the energy ball be eaten up, but targeting into the Flutter Mane instead. The Sylveon gets the safe swap in, the Tatsugiri is not targeted, and Perish out falling as the Flutter Mane over on Zackary's end will not have a chance to reset that up for the Tatsugiri.
Nope, he's not going to be able to make that play, but he's still going to be able to pivot into a classic Dondozo Tatsugiri, which isn't a bad thing, especially now he's saved at the Terrestrialization, so he can go with that Steel type once again over onto the Dondozo. Just makes a lot of sense to me. But Iron Bundle Flutter Mane, once again, time is running out for these guys. They do need to be a little more cautious of it, and I think we're kind of back in the same boat, right? It's like Tatsugiri is, you know, will it be there in the middle of the turn? Oh, it's a tough call, you know. And Zach's done a really good job of holding off on this Dondozo and bringing it only when it needs to really activate it.
Yeah, and going on forward with the fact that there is the Perish Song pressure, there needs to be the swaps at some point coming out from Ryan. So for at least the Flutter Mane, it will be this a turn as the Corviknight then it comes out. Tatsugiri going to make sure that with a Pokemon sticking around the Iron Bundle that it can make sure it's nice and safe. Both Pokemon just seeing where the Perish Song falls.
Yep, just seeing exactly what goes on here. The Icy Wind is not going to be able to do anything in this turn, and that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like, you know, you want to make sure you can break the focus sash potentially on the Tatsugiri and be able to knock that out. But Iron Bundle's Perish count is now down to 1. It's the only Pokemon left from turn number 1 with the Perish count. So you have to imagine it's got to be assessing the opportunity to switch here. He's got some good switch-in options. I think that something like the Arcanine probably feels pretty safe coming in at this point, unless Tatsugiri finally decides to go on the offense.
Yeah, though it's so tricky because losing the Tatsugiri, I mean, then losing the Commander boost for that Dondozo that might be in the back. So that's a tricky situation, but you do know that there is a very strong chance of one of these Pokemon over on Ryan's end making that swap, that being the Iron Bundle, the fact that that is a very strong Pokemon to be losing at the end of the turn if there is no swap here and if it does opt to be attacking. So the swap in will be in effect. So this is a position where Zackary can try and take advantage as Arcanine joins the field.
Yep, let's see if the Arcanine gets in for free as well. That's going to be really big, as I don't know if we're going to be getting any other swaps this turn. We'll just see the Intimidate land. That's absolutely fine. Oh, there it is. So we're finally going for it. We're going for the full strategy, I have to imagine. We're getting Commander Dondozo.
It's so interesting to see the Dondozo swap into the Tatsugiri being on the field because now neither of these Pokemon will be doing anything. Of course, though, any target into the Tatsugiri slot, that Tatsugiri is going to be nice and safe now with its Dondozo buddy. You'll be able to get the boost. So sure, you still have a battle in terms of everything, but the Corviknight is going to start on the offense, dealing a little bit of damage. Even though it's a non-resistant hit, that's still not doing much.
Yeah, I mean, that's just showing that I don't see a way that this Corviknight beats the Dondozo. So Dondozo is going back to like this interesting predicament where it's like, okay, I need the Dondozo to win the game. I want to go Steel Terra type, but I think you have to do that as soon as the Arcanine's gone, right? For now, you leave it as regular form, just taking the water typing. You do have to be careful though. This Iron Bundle switch in, it does add pressure, and the Arcanine is just adding more pressure right now.
And the thing about this Arcanine hitting that Will-O-Wisp into the Dondozo is it will negate that leftovers recovery. So something that Zackary was able to be hiding behind with that substitute to make sure that Dondozo stuck around for, well, what seemed like an eternity is then not necessarily going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really, really big for the side of Ryan, right? Like, being able to apply pressure and limit the Dondozo a whole lot more is absolutely huge here. It might be behind the substitute, but it's still not going to be able to recover health. The attacks are nice here for the side. It's like, if you go Terra, Steel, then I'm just going to Flare Blitz you. If you don't, I'm just going to Freeze Dry you. So the Dondozo substitute will fade. Now the Arcanine, yeah, is going to just make sure with the Flare Blitz.
Yeah, and any damage done to the Dondozo at this point is going to be good damage. Sure, it didn't really take too much, but it needs to really be able to start going on the offensive, and that's going to be really difficult with the fact that it has been burnt at this point. So Order Up will start to try and get a little bit of it back, but the Dondozo in such a weird and bad situation in comparison to game one, because even if it gets through these two Pokemon, well, there's still that Corviknight in the back, and we've seen that Corviknight's ability to outlast.
Yeah, and this Dondozo doesn't really have many options to, you know, try and keep itself safe. It's going to get caught by this Freeze Dry, so this damage is going to start adding up, and this Dondozo is getting treacherously low for a Dondozo that can't recover because of the burn.
Nope, and there's another one, the Dondozo in the red. We've already seen how little Order Up did, and even with the Earthquake hitting a super effective hit onto the Arcanine, that's just not nearly what you need to see out of this Pokemon.
Nope, that is not what you wanted to see at all. And I think in the next turn, it is going to be the Dondozo going down. So it's going to be a tougher time. It's like another Freeze Dry is going to get it, right? Like another Freeze Dry is going to make sure that you're not able to do that. It's just sticking in that red. And, you know, Dondozo can't even like buy turns with the Protect, because it's just not going to matter because of that burn. So that one turn of Will-O-Wisp, getting that Arcanine in nice and early, getting that in, you know, to save the Iron Bundle as well, right? The Iron Bundle that would have fallen to the Perish Song is looking really, really good here. The Iron Bundle does, you know, it knows what it's got to target, right? There's no real issues there. Iron Bundle, though, going for the Protect, so maybe trying to bait one out on the side of the Dondozo as well. But no Protect coming through does mean just a Flare Blitz there. Not very effective, but a nice little chunk of damage there.
Just a nice little chunk of damage as the Dondozo looking to return that nice little chunk of damage with the Earthquake. Iron Bundle going to be nice and safe as it's just going to be hitting into the Arcanine. Will be enough to be taking that Arcanine down at this point, and that'll now be one more Pokemon taken away from Ryan.
Yep, that's now Ryan down. It is going to be just his three. He's got the Corviknight, the Fluttermane, and the Iron Bundle, which we see on the field. This Dondozo, though, not able to recover, just getting hurt by its burn very, very slowly. And what's really cool here is, like, you think about it, you can really like swing this turn very, very quickly, right? Yeah. Because the Iron Bundle gets the knockout on the Dondozo, and then immediately the Tatsugiri comes out, isn't able to defend itself,
yeah,
and then just gets knocked out immediately. So this could be a really big turn. It is going to have to be the change-up from the side of Zackary. Just trying to really, really hope that, you know, at least if he goes Steel, he's not getting knocked out. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to save him. We'll see. It's going to be perilous.
Just anything that you can be throwing at the situation. Freeze Dry,
Ooh,
minimal damage. It's going to be holding on. So the Dazzling Gleam hitting into the Dondozo. Yes, that is going to be cleaning up the KO. But we knew the Dondozo was going to go down at this point. But the Tatsugiri getting out safely onto the field is the important part.
Yeah, getting the Tatsugiri on the field without it getting immediately knocked out is a bit of a win here for Zackary. But he's now giving up, you know, he's given up that Terra typing just to make that play a little more awkward for Ryan. And yeah, I mean, it's still, you think about the speed advantage as well. It's like, what does, you know, Zackary have to try and match this one up? I just don't see it being able to outrun us. And it looks like, you know, just a couple of spread moves just going on that side. I mean, the Tatsugiri does have to be hit twice because of the Focus Sash, but you're putting a lot of pressure on this Sylveon to just get consistent knockouts with the Hyper Voice.
Yeah, there is the world where the Tatsugiri protects, the Sylveon tries to take KO onto the Iron Bundle, but the Iron Bundle being safe, the Sylveon will as well, though, throughout this turn. So really throwing everything onto the Tatsugiri as it will be going onto the offensive this time around. Does have to eat that Dazzling Gleam, though, and that is going to bring it right down to its Sash. So it's now time to see what it fired off. It is the Draco Meteor into the Fluttermane, but that's not doing nearly enough damage. Still holding definitely not safely with 1/3.
No, not able to get the knockout there. Does mean that this Fluttermane Iron Bundle, it will be the fastest pairing on the field, right? Like, they're going to be moving before both of his Pokemon, so could just start picking up knockouts that way. Iron Bundle saving itself for later, wants to be the star of the show a little bit later on, but Corviknight is going to be able to come in and quite comfortably deal with anything this Sylveon throws at it. So definitely a very safe play here. Tatsugiri doesn't want to get knocked out just yet, but it doesn't have much longer to go here.
As Dazzling Gleam from the Fluttermane, nothing into the Tatsugiri, and it's just going to be a chunk of damage onto the Sylveon, as it will be able to fire back with the Hyper Voice. They're not even being able to pick up the KO onto the Fluttermane, though. A survival on 2 health. So still 3 Pokemon on Ryan's end to be dealing with this Tatsugiri on its last legs, and this Sylveon that's not able to really hit into these. A fail on the double protect, and now a Dazzling Gleam. It'll be able to finish off the Tatsugiri and bring the Sylveon down so low. So the Tatsugiri down low. So at this point now, the Corviknight.
Is it going to be able to do something?
We'll
Is it
see.
going to be able to
Can
get
we
a
do
knockout?
it?
Go on, Corviknight. Let's see. Show and prove me and Sierra wrong in this one. It is the Brave Bird going in. It's not getting a knockout.
Thanks to that Citrus Berry, the Sylveon just going to be getting enough health back. The Hyper Voice will be enough to deal with the Fluttermane, but even the critical hit onto the Corviknight, just not enough damage. So fun survival coming out at that point. And even if the Corviknight couldn't clean up the game this time around, there's the Corviknight, there's the Iron Bundle. It is a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, do you give it to the Corviknight? Do you just make the Iron Bundle protect here and just let the Corviknight finally get a KO?
No, you stamp your ticket into top 4 of the Vancouver Regionals as the battle will be canceled, and it is going to be Ryan Loseto moving on into top 4.
Yeah, a fantastic set played by both